Breaking news. The war between the United States, Israel, and Iran has taken a dramatic new turn. A U.S. Navy submarine has sunk an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean near Sri Lanka. This marks a major naval escalation, expanding the war far beyond the Middle East. At the same time, Iran is launching waves of missiles and drones across the region. Israeli and U.S. air defenses are on high alert amid rapid escalations. In this video, we break down the sinking, the retaliation, and what could come next. The conflict has jumped to international waters, threatening vital sea routes. The strike occurred near Sri Lanka, far from Iran's coastline. Iran answers with regional missile and drone attacks targeting Israel and U.S. bases. Analysts warn the pace of escalation is quickening by the hour. We begin with where and how the Iranian warship was sunk. Here is what we know about the strike and its immediate aftermath. One of the most shocking developments, a U.S. submarine torpedoed the Iranian frigate IRIS Dena. The vessel was returning from an international naval exercise. It transited into the Indian Ocean, far beyond the Persian Gulf. The attack happened off Sri Lanka, near the busy sea lanes south of Galway. Reports placed the strike roughly 40 nautical miles off the coast. Conditions were clear, visibility good, standard transit back from drills. Unseen below, a U.S. Navy submarine stalked the target. Fire control solutions were calculated with precision. Moments later, torpedo tubes flooded and doors opened. A Mark 48 torpedo was launched toward the frigate. Designed for speed and lethality, the weapon closed rapidly. Inside the sub, the crew monitored bearing and range to impact. The torpedo struck, triggering a devastating explosion. Within moments, critical compartments flooded. Sailors scrambled to abandon ship amid chaos. Debris scattered across the Indian Ocean surface. Listing worsened and the frigate slipped beneath the waves. The strike shocked military observers worldwide. Sri Lankan rescue teams rushed after receiving distress calls. Rescuers pulled survivors from rough seas. Authorities report 32 sailors rescued. Officials confirmed 87 bodies recovered, with dozens missing. Search efforts continued into the night. Casualty counts underscored the strike's human toll. Experts note this is the first time since World War II a U.S. sub sank an enemy warship. Such engagements are exceedingly rare in modern naval warfare. The incident expands the conflict's geography far beyond the Middle East. New theaters now include vast maritime spaces. Commanders must now contend with longer ranges and wider logistics. Tehran's response was immediate and fierce. Officials condemned the strike as aggression in international waters. Public anger surged as statements vowed consequences. Iran's Revolutionary Guard promised intensified attacks on U.S. assets. Leaders warned the U.S. would bitterly regret the strike. Some threatened to disrupt shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption here could have global economic consequences. Iran continued launching missiles and drones across the region. Targets included U.S. installations and Israeli territory. Air defenses intercepted several inbound threats. A notable strike targeted Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Officials said a ballistic missile impacted without causing casualties. The attack underscored the widening reach of the conflict. Iran also launched drones at Israeli radar and military sites. Israel's layered defenses engaged repeatedly. Interceptions limited damage but did not halt the tempo. Battle rhythms showed Iran striking multiple axes at once. U.S. forces dispersed and hardened positions across theaters. Alert levels remained high amid fresh warnings. Iran claimed strikes on multiple U.S.-linked bases across the Gulf. Visuals showed smoke rising near a base in Bahrain. At Kuwait sites, impacts prompted rapid medical response. A projectile evaded defenses and hit a makeshift operations node. U.S. Central Command reported 6 service members killed. Coalition patrols intensified across air and sea lanes. Qatari aircraft engaged hostile threats, marking rare air-to-air combat. The skies grew more contested as sorties increased. Downed drones littered remote approaches to key bases. Facility hardening continued as more salvos were expected. Israel answered with renewed waves of precision airstrikes. Targets, missile sites, IRGC infrastructure, and command hubs. Israeli jets launched multiple waves of strikes. Targets included missile launch sites and depots. Explosions were reported in Tehran and other cities. Imagery highlighted command and control nodes. Revolutionary Guard infrastructure faced sustained strikes. Assessments suggested degraded launch capacity. Penetration routes exploited valleys and low radar zones. Aerial refueling sustained long-range sorties. Strike packages cycled quickly to maintain pressure. Air raid alerts echoed across multiple provinces. Iran still retained significant retaliatory capabilities. Electronic warfare and countermeasures shielded aircraft. Analysts say the campaign aims to weaken missile and nuclear capabilities. Heavily fortified sites complicate rapid effects. Sustained operations strain logistics and crews. Threat envelopes overlap across a crowded battle space. Israel pursued command nodes and enablers in quick succession. Iranian air defenses responded, increasing risk to aircraft. Even with losses limited, attrition risks grow over time. Analysts expect continued retaliatory exchanges for weeks. The conflict is spilling into additional fronts. New actors and arenas now shape escalation risks. Northern fronts see increased rocket fire and displacement. Tens of thousands have been displaced by the widening violence. Hezbollah has launched rockets toward Israel, opening a second front. Cross-border fire raised fears of broader confrontation. Defenses adjusted to absorb multi-vector threats. Gulf states hosting U.S. forces reported drone and missile attacks. Emergency protocols activated across multiple installations. Statements warned of a potential regional conflagration. Aid agencies mobilized as displacement numbers climbed. Civilians sought safety amid sporadic strikes. Coalitions rebalanced maritime patrols to protect sea lanes. Airborne early warning expanded situational awareness. Shipping choke points emerged as flashpoints of concern. Analysts warn escalation ladders are shortening across theaters. Displacement surged in Lebanon amid intensifying exchanges. Urban centers braced for sporadic strikes. Medical systems strained under surge conditions. Evacuations moved civilians out of high-risk areas. Humanitarian corridors required careful deconfliction. Maritime traffic slowed as insurance risks climbed. Military movements suggested preparations for sustained operations. The world economy is starting to feel the shock. Oil prices jumped amid fears of supply disruptions. Airlines canceled flights over conflict zones. Shippers reconsidered routes to avoid attacks on vessels. Extended disruption could ripple into global inflation and growth. Threats to the Strait of Hormuz imperil a major share of global oil flows. Benchmarks spiked within days on supply fears. Naval escorts and higher premiums add cost to each barrel moved. Air routes adjust, lengthening flight times and expenses. Shipping delays ripple into manufacturing and retail timelines. Consumers feel higher energy and transport costs quickly. Some carriers consider longer detours to avoid risk zones. Markets price in a widening geopolitical risk premium. Backlogs build as inspections and escorts slow throughput. Companies reassess inventories and contingency plans. Leaders debate sanctions, escorts, and de-escalation channels. Producers weigh output shifts to stabilize prices. Marine insurance recalibrates premiums and coverage zones. Overland corridors pick up slack where feasible. Downstream shortages may appear if disruptions persist. Escalation could push inflation higher and slow growth. Global exposure is high. Outcomes hinge on the next moves. The next few days will be pivotal. Navies, air forces, and markets brace for shifts. Here is where the conflict may go from here. The IRIS Dena sailed from Iranian waters into the Indian Ocean. The strike zone lay south of Sri Lanka, beyond territorial seas. These are among the busiest sea lanes in the world. Submarine presence here is routine for major navies. Reports emphasize the attack occurred in international waters. A Mark 48 is optimized to defeat surface combatants swiftly. This engagement shifts deterrence and naval risk calculus. Wider seas mean longer, costlier sustainment for all sides. Commercial crews now face heightened threat conditions. Diplomatic hotlines are active to prevent miscalculation. Meanwhile, missile and drone warfare intensifies ashore. Escalation pathways now include air, sea, and cyber domains. The sinking of the IRIS Dena is a turning point in a rapidly widening war. The conflict now spans from regional battlefields to international waters. Missile attacks, airstrikes, and drone warfare continue apace. Decisions made in the coming days could shape the trajectory of this crisis. Shipping routes and energy supplies hang in the balance. Military forces posture for deterrence and rapid response. Stay with us for verified updates as this story develops. Subscribe for the latest global war updates.